Greetings everyone! My name is Suezath and I welcome you to my new video in the series Game Analysis. Today, we're finally starting with the analysis of the footage from Tokyo Game Show 2019. I will split everything up into coherent story segments, and the first one contains all the scenes from the Sector 7 slums before the next mission. This is comprised of the following scenes: the dart minigame, the Sephiroth Hallucination, conversation with Tifa, and the whole segment with the Keepers of Fate attacking 7th Heaven. But before we start, special thanks to Rimavel, Break-Even Cloud and the Livestream.net Discord crew for helping me figure out how all those scenes fit together. Thanks guys! Quick reminder for regulars and mini announcement for new folks. I will perform a rebranding of this channel by the end of September, but don't worry, nothing besides the channel's appearance will change. With that being said, let's take the train to Sector 7. Before we dive into individual scenes, let's put those in order first. You already got a glimpse of it in my latest chronological trailer cut. If you haven't seen them yet, please go check them out after watching this video. It's in the middle of the night when we arrive in 7th Heaven after returning from the first bombing mission, where Barrett reunites with his daughter and we see Tifa for the first time. In the scene with the dart minigame, the walls seem illuminated by indoor lights only. Thus, it most likely takes place sometime after arriving, probably before the debriefing in a secret hideout. Afterwards, Cloud retreats to his hotel room in another building, possibly after the spat with Barrett during said debriefing. When Cloud enters the room, he suffers from another memory glitch, sees Sephiroth and immediately attacks him, banging the sword against the doorframe. Then he has a chat with Tifa in the same room. It's still dark outside as seen by the window. The next morning, they leave the room to witness the Keepers of Fate attack. Then they make their way to 7th Heaven, where the others are already fending off the threat. Some action happens and Tifa gets pulled away by one of the Dementors, Keepers of Fate. The drinking scene with Tifa from the E3 trailer most likely happens after, as there's already daylight outside. Okay, let's now break down the details. We'll start with the dart minigame, a new addition to the collection of minigames in Final Fantasy VII. It contains a classic dartboard with a wooden encasing providing 3 darts for each color. The one Cloud's using differs in color and pattern compared to the ones in front. Is he using Tifa's special dart set? Is Cloud playing alone or is Tifa playing with him? This minigame is very reminiscent of the one in Final Fantasy XV, although I hope it's a little bit more elaborate here. We could only control the timing of the dart shots, and the first time Noctis hits the bullseye, the player was rewarded with 3 AP and a victory photo taken by Prompto. Location-wise, we're in 7th Heaven. There are several indicators for this, like the wall and the lamp. To the right of the dartboard, there's one of the corners visible. As there's neither bar nor kitchen around, this must be the corner which is covered by Cloud in the E3 trailer. And in the lower left, we can even see the jukebox. That was one of the things missing in the E3 trailer, and I'm glad they didn't forget about it. Now that we know the orientation, it's clearly still night, or else there would be daylight shining into the window to the right, which is not the case. In the next scene, Cloud enters his hotel room, starts having another episode and sees Sephiroth again, who is either leaning against the wall or sitting on something according to his posture. But why are they focusing on his left hand? Maybe Cloud's checking out if he's holding the Masamune blade. Sephiroth is left-handed after all. Cloud's facial expression here is excellent, as he's horrified at first and then his demeanor turns into blazing anger within a second. This time, Cloud immediately pulls out his Buster Sword and tries to attack Sephiroth. However, he hits the doorframe instead, and Cloud loses his grip with his left hand from the impact. This solidifies my theory of the other Sephiroth encounter at the end of the E3 trailer happening in Sector 8. Cloud wouldn't react this way if this was his first hallucinatory encounter with his nemesis. Then we get a close-up shot at Sephiroth, who smirks mockingly at Cloud. Sephiroth looks menacing, especially with those cat eyes. And look at those details. Pores, hair, brows, eyelashes, lips, and all of it's in-game real-time rendering, as we can still see the polygon edges along the hair strands. His design might have changed a bit since the E3 trailer, but that's for the character analysis video. I've heard a theory in which Tifa is waiting in here for Cloud, who sees Sephiroth instead of her. If that's true, she's lucky that Cloud's sword hits the doorframe and not her. However, she would react differently, but Sephiroth doesn't move. If Tifa was there, she'll probably ask what the heck he's doing. Then Cloud snaps out of it, apologizes, and the conversation begins. This would also be grim foreshadowing for the scene in the Forgotten Capital, where Cloud, also under the influence of Sephiroth, nearly cleaves everything in half. The room might just as well be empty though, and Tifa arrives later. We'll see. A little side note, There's a repeating pattern in the memory glitch effect. And here, take a good look at the wall. Take note of the wall pattern and the circle recesses. They will come up later. And the materia can't escape my eagle eye. I see you there. No point in hiding. Anyway, let's find out where we currently are. I can't prove anything to you until later in the video without skipping ahead, so for now, let's focus on what we can see here. Behind Cloud, we can see several details indicating we are in the Sector 7 slums by night. There are numerous shacks in the background, one of them having a slanted roof and another even bearing a ramp to a higher level. Are certain rooftops traversable? There's a lamppost, a light bulb hanging from a cable just outside the door and several spotlights all around the place. When brightening up the image, we can already see another sector in the dark portion of the background. Part below looks like the destroyed part of Sector 6. I'll show you a reference image later. Now comes the room many fans cannot agree on where it is or when that scene takes place. I already spilled the beans earlier, but nonetheless, let's start from the beginning. At first glance, it looks like the prison cell in Shinra HQ. Even Tifa's line would fit quite well.
Can't say this is quite what I had in mind when I asked for your help way back when.
However, I can tell you with 100% confidence that this is not the prison cell. Some people believe it's one of the rooms in 7th Heaven, but I have evidence even against this theory. We had a pretty long discussion on Discord and eventually came to the conclusion that this is a hotel room located in another building. The one where Cloud has the Sephiroth Hallucination and then runs out during the Keepers of Fate attack. Now, let me present to you the evidence. The wall pattern with the circular recesses matches the one seen during the other two scenes. Then there's a shelf with towels and boxes on top above Cloud's head. That black rectangle is a slider window with two segments. In this one frame, when brightened up the image, we even see glass distortion and the reflection of Tifa's movement. It's still dark outside and the only light source in here is a spotlight behind Cloud. Sunlight doesn't cast such sharp shadows at different angles. Furthermore, the floor is made out of wooden planks. While the cell also contains similar lines, those are not wooden planks. There's no wooden floor anywhere in the Shinra HQ, period. The only object made of wood might be the desk in the meeting room on floor 66. Then there's the bed, which looks like a normal one you'll find in the slums. Those in the prison cells are affixed to the wall and can be flipped 90 degrees against it. We can also make out a small stool underneath it, which might be the same model also found in 7th Heaven, outside and inside, as seen later in this trailer. In general, everything looks too archaic for Shinra HQ, which has an exclusively modern interior. The wall Tifa is leaning against isn't even a wall per se, but a bathroom divider. There's a door handle on the middle segment just behind Tifa, and the whole divider has this huge gap at ground level for better moisture circulation. We can even see white ceramic floor tiles on the other side thanks to the gap. And then there's this chocobo poster on the right of Tifa, the same one also found in 7th Heaven. The surface of the bathroom divider has seen things, the mark of the slums. Would a prison cell have all of those things? Little side note, there's a yellow materia in Tifa's glove. Is it sense, steel, death blow or something new? None of the abilities during the Epps fight look to be independent of Tifa's fighting style. While this might be one of the first new materia we see in the remake, I have no idea what it could be as of now besides speculating. Anyway, back to the room. I also wonder where Cloud put his sword. It's probably leaning against the wall beside the bed, out of view. Maybe it's just the angle, but Tifa's face looks kinda weird here. Her mouth seems to be too high. At least her hair physics look quite natural. Tifa's line also makes more sense in this situation as she's referencing the promise they made 7 years ago. Cloud promised to come and save her whenever she's in a pinch, once he's in Soldier. The flashback to said promise seen in the original probably follows right after this scene. Trivia time. Did you know that the promise flashback was supposed to take place outside? Chatamp from the livestream.net community made a video series about unused text and scenes. Link in the description down below. It really looks like they dug up all those cut ideas to include some of them in some way. Also note that the distance between Cloud and Tifa is visually represented here as well, like in the bar. I like this change of Cloud crashing at another place. He isn't part of Avalanche yet and still a lone wolf. Him not spending the night at 7th Heaven makes therefore perfect sense. In the next scene, we see Cloud and Tifa leave his hotel room the next day. Where's Tifa, you ask? Right here. She's already outside and running ahead. Blink and you miss it. Question is, did she spend the night at Cloud's? Later, Barrett yells, "Where you been?" at them, implying that Tifa has been gone for a while without him knowing. However, Tifa seems too shy and distant at this point in time for sleeping in the same room with Cloud alone. The original game implied that at least Barrett was with them in the same room. On the other side, she wouldn't want to leave him alone, especially after the episode she may have witnessed the night before. The truth probably lies in the middle. Tifa spent the night at home and went to check on Cloud first thing in the morning and didn't tell the others. While inside, they probably hear the ruckus outside. Tifa checks it out, tells Cloud to come and see, which is when the scene from the trailer starts. What's interesting is that Cloud has 2 materia slotted in instead of 1, which is uncommon for footage before the second bombing mission. Okay, let's check the outside where we get a great view on the Midgar architecture. There's the central pillar and the intricate surface below the plate, quite similar to the reveal teaser back in 2015. In the background, we see sectors 5 and 6, as well as the plate support pillars with their own scaffolding and platforms for sectors 5 and 7. Sector 6 doesn't have a pillar due to it being destroyed. The bottom half of the reactors number 5 and 6 can also be seen here. The Sector 6 slums aren't visible here, since the playground and wall market are closer to the reactor borders and the center. We only see the destroyed part of the center in that bright, fog-like area. In the distance, we already see the mountain range due south. We also see parts of the yet unfinished plate extensions and narrow support struts leading to the plate edge for additional support. Back to the Sector 7 slums, there's so much detail to observe. Pipes, processing units, power lines with attached Mako generators and of course the cobbled together shantytown-like buildings. Again, this site looks reminiscent of the 2015 reveal teaser footage. We already get a glimpse of the Sector 7 pillar where the battle for Sector 7 takes place. The whole pillar premises are enclosed by a solid wall in contrast to the original, where it only consists of a simple iron fence. Now it gets interesting. That building over there with the 2 signs is in fact 7th Heaven. The lower one looks like the curved one affixed to the first floor, which also consists of bricks and bears crossbeams. The sign on top might be the one recreated from the original, having Texas, Cowboy Old written on it. The orientation also fits, but that's for later. Anyway, there's another street lamp of the same kind we saw at night and there's a sign with Japanese letters written on it, but I can barely make them out. However, that sign belongs to the signpost also seen in the original render and it seems to bear the exact same kanji characters. Both signposts have multiple signs all around and one fixed to the top. Going further, we can even make out that orange sign above the entrance to the shack next to that signpost. Both buildings are severely patched up and have slanted roofs. This level of authenticity is phenomenal. Their core philosophy is on display again here, staying as faithful to the original as possible while expanding everything at the same time. Now, the following batch of evidence tells us that this is the same room and building as in previous scenes. The railing of the balcony is the same, as are the walls if we brighten them up. The whole area outside, which I've already described to you before, looks the same. The building with the ramp on top to the right is still there, as well as the building to the left with the slanted roof. The other details match up as well, like the street lamp, the rooftop, the window, etc. We also see the barren and brighter patch of ground beneath the destroyed Sector 6 plate and parts of Sector 5 behind that in both scenes. There are a few other details of note. We don't see a door, so I think it swings to the outside, most likely to the left as the right part of the doorframe contains those notches and no hinges. There's a curtain covering the window near the door and beneath it lies another shelf space. That small dark rectangle might represent the light switch. As mentioned earlier, the Keepers of Fate are already up and about causing a scene. There are much more present than 4. What's going on? We see 7 on the left, 33 in the center region and 9 to the right, though 4 of them are rather close, possibly on purpose. There are 5 more to the right while Cloud exits the room. This tallies the total number of ghostly apparitions to a total of 54. I might be off by 1 or 2, as they're rather difficult to count and some of them appear or disappear during this short scene. But there's a weird detail. Some of them lose the shadow from one frame to another when the camera starts zooming by Cloud. Why is that? In this very short scene, Cloud and Tifa make their way to 7th Heaven. While only Cloud is visible here, we'll see that Tifa is still tagging along in an upcoming scene. The way Cloud is moving makes it look like he's walking against a sandstorm. 4 Keepers of Fate are flying past, not actually harming them. There are more in the background. 4 above and 5 below. One of them even disappears midway. Regarding location, we're closer to the pillar border wall than Cloud's hotel. We see the 2 smaller cylindrical units and part of the big one. We also see the shack with the pipes and that circular element which can be seen in the previous shot. The pipe pattern and overall design match perfectly. We are currently behind that building here and look against the one mentioned just before. With this in mind, we can also make out that small shack on struts high above with a slanted rooftop farther back behind the red banner. On the left, we see some sort of market stall with miscellaneous stuff stored inside. Interestingly, there's a wooden sign hanging outside, probably bearing the name of some establishment nearby. There's also a blackboard stand visible. Here starts the real battle against those annoying specters. Barret and Jessie are standing their ground on the porch of 7th Heaven and keep shooting at the aggressors. We see 4 of them attacking and 2 more sneaking in from the sides. In the next shot, one of them tackles Barret, who topples over as a result. It seems like the Keepers of Fate are somewhat corporeal, even if they can phase through matter, as we see later. Jessie is worried about Barret and shoots at an incoming specter, but to no avail. The bullets phase right through. Barret gets up again and we see Cloud and Tifa arriving in the back. Then we see another 4 specters surrounding Barret and Jessie and another 3 circling the building. As Cloud and Tifa run towards the others, another one appears right in front of Tifa and drags her away from Cloud. They reach for each other but fail and seem to get separated. This describes a parallel to the scene on the Sector 7 pillar staircase, when they reach for each other again, but are presumably successful this time. We also see Tifa's very frightened expression as she gets dragged away. Could this be one of the reasons why she gets scared in the train graveyard? What's interesting is that Biggs and Wedge are nowhere to be seen. Are they at home? Did they sleep in? Where do they live anyway? Does Jessie also live in 7th Heaven? Wedge has a little brother, so he might live there. In Dirge of Cerberus, there's a girl from the WRO in the train graveyard who talks about a brother joining a Shinra resistance group after her mother died. That brother then also died during the Sector 7 platefall. She could be talking about Biggs. Another question: are civilians already evacuated? Hiding in their homes? My money is on the latter. Now, let's dive into all the details hidden in those scenes. First, we get a great view on the front of 7th Heaven. Everything we saw in the E3 2019 trailer is still here. Like the staircase and the porch with tables and stools on both sides. The porch extends around the corners like in the original. There are additional awnings above the tables and stools on either side, made of tarps and bearing light bulbs, and a new arched canopy above the entrance covered with the same kind of tarp. We also get a better look at the bricked facade with the cross beams on either side. The house also still stands on support struts, or at least the porch does. There are even more details around the building that weren't in the original. There's a stock shelter harboring miscellaneous things. Crates, casks and wooden beams are loaded onto carriages which are supported by bricks. There are metal beams in a crate on the other side, and boxes, yellow bottle crates and planks in a wooden crate to the side of the building to the left, which can also be seen in the overview shot from before. There's a lamppost with 2 lamps attached, and right next to it a signpost with 2 red arrows pointing at 7th Heaven. It also bears a wooden sign on the opposite side. Could those 2 posts represent this thing here from the original? Now, let me show you something amazing. Do you see that tiny yellow thingamabob on the ground? First, I thought it was a remake treasure chest, but it turns out it's not, so I categorized it as junk. However, this is actually a treasure chest from the original game. Now I wonder if we can interact with it. I really hope Cloud makes a nostalgic remark, or that it even has some junk from the original in there. There's another generator element running on Mako on the power line mast to the left. In the background exist several buildings like warehouses on the left and shacks on the right. One even possesses a ladder. I hope it's climbable. It's quite dark in the background to the left. Maybe that's the reactor number 8. Right next to 7th Heaven, we can make out some strange contraptions. Are those Mako storage or distribution units? The original render also has something similar at the same spot. It seems there's no path leading to the area behind 7th Heaven. There's a fence to the left, and the right side also doesn't exhibit a passageway. Then again, the original also didn't allow traversal beyond 7th Heaven. Sector 7 slums in general don't seem to encompass a huge traversable area, it seems. Next to the storage shelter to the left, there's a big pipe poking out of the ground. Quite similar to the one found on the Sector 1 reactor premises where we fight the guard dog. We see many other things and details lying around, enriching the slum's atmosphere. When Barret gets hit, we get a great look at the empty hood of one of the Keepers of Fate. The building close by is also a bar, according to the red-blue neon sign, and has 2 windows. We already see Cloud in the background, as well as the yellow bottle crates and the plank in the wooden crate from before. The metal pipe in the ground and the small steel pipe nearby are also visible here. There's a sign on the other building further down the road saying "Pre-packaged food something." Is that a grocery store selling long-life food? We can at least see the entrance. The reactor number 7 is visible in the background, as are some scaffolding and steel bars of incomplete plate extensions, alongside 3, maybe 5 more ghostly enemies. There's a mountain range on this side too. We're looking somewhat to the northwest here, but the original map doesn't have any mountains on this side. However, we already saw parts of the mountain range in the remade Midgar camera zoom. One frame before it cuts away, we get a closer look at the porch and one of the short stools. The next shot has Jessie fending off another Keeper of Fate. Here, we get another look at the area around the Sector 7 support pillar. There are the same processing or storage cylinders next to the pillar, as we can see the big one, two smaller ones, and the same pipe pattern seen in the overview shot. The pillar itself is right behind. This shot right here is more evidence that the building I showed you earlier on the overview shot is indeed 7th Heaven. There are more interesting details. The stock shelter with a slanted roof next to 7th Heaven, the railings of the porch and the awnings made of tarp with some light bulbs underneath. Further back I see another brick building, possibly a home with a big window and blue pulled up sun blinds. And of course there's another power line mast. And many more Keepers of Fate. 15 plus the one flying by Jessie. As mentioned before, the bullets and even the muzzle flash phase right through the Spectre. Finally, Cloud and Tifa arrive at the scene and like before, the grey pests fly right past them. Here we get a nice view on the other side of the slums. The market stand on the left is the same we already got a glimpse of in the previous scene. There's not much on it besides boxes, though there's this golden chocobo poster from the Loveless Theatre hidden behind it. There are many more shacks in the background, and it looks like we can loiter around on this side as opposed to behind 7th Heaven. We also see two more power line masts carrying one spotlight each. Further back, we see something that looks like a wall. But why does it end there? Sector dividers reach from the center all the way to the reactors as seen in the parachute scene. So what does this represent? Has any of you any idea? Between Jessie's head and ponytail, we can see the entrance to and the yellow neon sign of some sort of market. Possibly a store we can enter to buy stuff, like items or maybe equipment. Behind Barrett, there are those boxes, yellow bottle crates and the plank standing in a wooden crate standing outside of the other bar again. And the big semi-buried pipe can be seen here too. There's a tall building in the back to the right, with a small top element surrounded by railings. Could this be the top of the building with the beginner's hall? It's not the place where Cloud stays at, as the railings look different and the orientation is wrong when compared to the overview shot. But here's an interesting detail. The light fades out a bit just before it zooms into Cloud and Tifa, as if the Keepers of Fate start getting serious. To the left of them, there's a radio standing on a small table. Maybe we are able to listen to radio broadcasts like in Final Fantasy XV, and maybe even some classic Final Fantasy VII music. I hope they are doing something with this radio. This scene comes right after the one with Cloud walking through the incoming wave of specters. The shelter with the light bulbs is the same one, and we even see parts of the table with the crate. The beams also match, and we can see the blue tarp behind the corrugated iron roof. We also see the planks stuck in a crate in both shots, and we can also make out the front part of the other market stall near the radio. Cloud and Tifa are farther back in the previous scene, as we can't quite make out the opening in the shack to their right, which contains an object covered by a blue tarp. Now we get another look at 7th Heaven, where we finally get to see the first floor, probably where Tifa, Barrett and Marlene live, maybe even Jessie. The curved sign above the entrance is still there. It has even the same shape, but it says 7th Heaven instead of Cyberbar or whatever it spells in the original render. New, however, are those festive light bulb chains on the first floor. For people fighting against Mako extraction, they sure use a lot of it. We also see the neon sign X and chips from here, as well as some of the lamps inside the bar. Tifa has already changed the contents of the blackboard besides the entrance, possibly after getting up and preparing the bar for the next business day. Or it has been redesigned by Square Enix themselves, like what they've done to many ads before that. In the background, the Sector 1 reactor is even visible from here, as are several support struts from the construction of the plate extensions. On the porch, we see that the stools on the left are brown and smaller, whereas the ones on the right are green and taller, like the ones inside. The tables also have different heights. In addition to the 4 primary enemies, there are 3 more. One to the right, another one flies towards the back of the building, and the third one comes out from behind on the other side. There are also a red shovel and a red toolbox among the other random things mentioned before. When Tifa gets attacked in the next scene, we see the same buildings as before, as well as the Mako generator on the left mast and the lamp on the right one. We also see reactor number 7 again. Behind Tifa and during the camera movement, we see the yellowish canopy leading to the entrance of the bar next door with the open neon sign above the entrance. It looks like the entrance pathway to the bar starts in this previous shot with Cloud, where people walk through between the pile of stuff and the table with the crates. That's why there's a wooden sign hanging above and the blackboard stand on the ground. Both announce the bar's name and offers. Again, we see the yellow materia visible in Tifa's glove, and there's more of the plate extension visible that are under construction. We also see a rectangular floodlight sitting high on a pole shining light on whatever's located underneath. The mountains from before are there again, and on the ground in front of the bar, there's another part of that buried pipe visible. During this scene, 4 additional nuisances are flying by. And we get the last glance on the boxes, yellow bottle crates and planks from the other bar. Since we now have a few more hints about what those ghostly floaty cloak-wearing wannabes are, let's try to get a better grasp of their purpose. As established in Game Analysis episode 11, those are most likely livestream spirits corrupted by Jenova cells, which can therefore be manipulated by Sephiroth through his connections to Jenova. Whenever Cloud has a Sephiroth hallucination, those things follow soon after it seems. The feather by the reactor core doesn't count. I'm only talking about full-on Sephiroth appearances. Cloud's memory glitches might act as a beacon for the Keepers of Fate, especially those where the real Cloud looks through the cracks. Since they're corrupted, they might see Jenova's will to be carried out, which starts with the reunion. Here's my theory for their appearance in Sector 7. By interacting with Tifa, Cloud starts to re-establish a connection with his real self, especially when she's reminding him of their promise 7 years ago. This goes against the reunion, as the truth would probably stop Cloud from partaking. As long as he carries the false persona mask, he's vulnerable to Jenova's and Sephiroth's influence. In this case, the Jenova cells within Cloud act instinctively and see Tifa as a threat to the reunion, calling forth reinforcements in the form of the Keepers of Fate. But why don't they appear right there in Cloud's room? Cloud probably doesn't start reconnecting with his real self until sleeping on what Tifa said. Maybe Cloud has a dream about portions of the truth when Tifa wakes him up the next morning, right about when the Keepers of Fate cause a ruckus at 7th Heaven, luring them out. At the scene, when everyone's distracted, they try to take Tifa away from Cloud. The Keepers of Fate don't harm the others, however. They just keep them busy or knock them over in the case of Barret. Something similar happens earlier above the plate in Sector 8. The Sephiroth hallucination scene with the burning building happens, and shortly after, Cloud meets Aerith. Her being a Cetra and being herself, she might have evoked something within Cloud, summoning his past and reconnecting a few threads to his real self. That's why the Keepers of Fate appeared, to stop Aerith from causing Cloud to deviate from the reunion. But that's just a theory. A game! Okay, I'll stop. And with that, we've reached the end of this first part of many analyses covering all the TGS 2019 and missing E3 footage. But before I let you go, please head over to Soldier First Class and give the guy some love by watching and liking his videos, and subscribe if you haven't already. He specializes in bite-sized videos covering news, rumors and trailers of all things Final Fantasy without needless fluff. In one of his recent videos, he was being a champ and gave me a similar shoutout completely on his own accord. Thank you, my friend! Alright, that's it for this episode of Game Analysis. The next one will cover the side mission with Cloud, Jessie, Biggs and Wedge from start to finish, including that mysterious soldier whatever class. If you don't want to miss that, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell button to be immediately notified of future uploads, and don't let yourself stop from sharing this video around. That being said, thank you so much for listening in, and I hope to see you again in the next episode of Game Analysis. Stay safe and take care. Suicide signing off.